An absolute bombshell just detonated regarding the vanished woman, Nancy Guthrie. Make sure to smash that subscribe button and turn alerts on. You need those alerts active. Since on March 10th, a former federal investigator dropped a massive bombshell on social media that left internet sleuths utterly speechless. That individual is Jennifer Coffindaffer, an incredible expert who dedicated decades working directly inside the Bureau, handling high-stakes mysteries exactly like this one. This woman understands exactly how federal detectives operate, alongside precisely what the complete quiet from local police truly indicates. She can spot the stark contrast separating a totally stalled manhunt from a precinct secretly preparing to slap cuffs on a suspect. Whatever she shared back on March 10th absolutely was not blind guessing, but rather a calculated inquiry posed by somebody already holding all the cards. She specifically asked why the leading sheriff constantly rejects incredibly qualified volunteer rescue teams, namely the United Cajun Navy and similar skilled groups. Are the detectives actually on the brink of taking someone into custody? Furthermore, have they basically figured out the victim's fate? Meaning they prefer to avoid wasting the crucial assets those amazing volunteers provide. Critical new details continue bubbling up regarding the ongoing hunt for the missing woman. These are certainly not flashy press conferences or highly publicized perp walks. Instead, we are seeing subtle shifts that veteran detectives instantly spot, particularly when that ex-federal agent shared her thoughts on March 10th, completely shaking up every online sleuth. Again, Jennifer Coffindaffer certainly is no random internet troll or amateur digital broadcaster. She refuses to make baseless guesses from the sidelines. Considering she devoted countless years working deeply within national intelligence agencies, she fully grasps the hidden tempo behind massive government operations and completely decodes the purpose of strategic quietness. This expert comprehends why operations shrink, clearly recognizing that precise shift. When a massive manhunt transitions directly into a tightly focused prosecution phase, therefore, her online post was incredibly deliberate, posing a thoughtful inquiry completely devoid of any real uncertainty. That inquiry practically screamed that she immediately recognized the underlying patterns at play. She noted her deep confusion regarding Sheriff Chris Nanos, aggressively dismissing seasoned civilian tracking units, specifically those highly trained Cajun Navy and similar search crews. Following that, she posed an incredibly sharp query, asking if local authorities were secretly preparing a major bust. Have they finally solved this mysterious disappearance? Right before she dropped 4 crucial words that literally set the internet ablaze. She declared her glass was half full while praying cops were nearing the finish line, which hit the public completely as expert analysis rather than naive hopefulness. Whenever a seasoned professional who builds federal cases entirely from scratch notices authorities circling a target, everyone else absolutely needs to listen. Throughout this entire video, we are ditching the wild rumors to focus purely on hard facts. We plan to systematically break down every single clue right now. Once you zoom out and deeply evaluate the reality, instead of the sensationalist media articles, the entire framework of this tragedy appears drastically altered from public perception. Prior to dissecting these clues, you truly must grasp exactly why this ex-agent's perspective holds such immense authority. She literally dedicated her life to the identical investigative engine currently running the Tucson operation, meaning she easily predicts rapid team reassignments. She readily decodes why massive media spectacles suddenly vanish, perfectly distinguishing between a trail growing cold versus a dragnet forcefully tightening. Throughout this specific manhunt, she heavily suspects compression. So let us examine the exact incident that sparked her viral message. The renowned Cajun Navy officially stepped up, submitting formal paperwork proposing to launch a massive rescue endeavor. That proposal definitely transcended basic volunteerism, featuring a highly detailed 41-page strategy packed with heat-seeking drones perfectly equipped to scour the dark wastelands. They bragged 25 highly certified tracking dogs, perfectly organized grid mapping squads, and incredibly seasoned wilderness survival experts. This elite outfit boasts a massive history, aiding nationwide rescue efforts, yet they formally extended their absolute best resources toward the Pima County Police Force. That leading sheriff bluntly rejected the massive offer, completely refusing to even acknowledge them in the press. The department merely published an incredibly short memo insisting that active duty officers must handle the gritty work. You could honestly read that terse response in 2 completely contrasting manners, starting with basic territorial dominance. A commanding officer desperately guarding his crime scene during a massive federal probe absolutely makes logical sense. However, the alternative theory feels incredibly calculated, suggesting boots-on-the-ground sweeps are obsolete because detectives transitioned away from geographical hunts toward forensic evidence. Assuming the authorities confidently mapped out their suspect's endgame, tossing amateur searchers across miles of barren wasteland is simply a massive waste of energy. Nobody bothers launching aerial cameras or releasing hounds whenever the suspect pool drastically shrinks. Instead, agencies dispatch their finest data crunchers, which strongly mirrors the current unfolding scenario. That was our primary red flag. While the subsequent clue originated straight from the top boss's mouth during a massive nationwide broadcast, he boldly proclaimed that his detectives were significantly closer to unmasking the shady figures spotted on the security cameras, effectively promising an imminent breakthrough. Detectives hate boxing themselves in during active manhunts, making those incredibly bold words a massive flashing siren. You normally hear about momentum or fresh clues, but authorities almost never throw around absolute certainty. Veteran federal agents strongly reacted to that specific wording. While a few found it strange, seasoned pros recognized the narrowing. Agents subtly change their tone once they stop chasing ghost tips and start hunting an actual target. The strategy pivots entirely from casting wide nets to laser-focused hunting, leading us to the third major clue. Initially, the Bureau flooded the Tucson area with immense resources, featuring hundreds of agents and a 24-hour hub. That massive footprint quietly shrank. Amateurs might mistake this drop in manpower for a cold trail, but they misunderstand how federals tighten their net. 4 local county investigators alongside their sergeant are currently locked into the federal task force inside the main branch. These aren't temporary side gigs, but a highly concentrated unit designed for an imminent, calculated takedown. Squads naturally downsize and become lethal once a manhunt transitions into cementing solid court evidence. Distractions get cut until pure leverage remains, illustrating the ultimate squeeze. Before we hit the 4th physical clue, the victim's seized vehicle has finally been given back after undergoing intense evidence extraction. Cars aren't handed back mid-hunt unless tech teams are completely finished swabbing them. They either pulled a blank, or every crucial trace was thoroughly logged and stuffed into the prosecutor's locked drawer. It firmly signals the end of that chapter. Since lab work stops only when experts have definitively answered questions, once the lab signs off, detectives push ahead, leading straight into the 5th and perhaps most dangerous red flag. One seasoned expert watched the security tapes on an absolute loop, picking up on a detail changing everything. This phantom on camera is completely distinct and undeniably recognizable. She highlighted his distinct brows, clothing, and specifically a small finger band, which is an undeniable staple of habit. That tiny jewelry piece is an everyday signature, something the lead sheriff admitted is visible right through hand coverings. There is absolutely no doubt somebody knows that distinct trinket, dropping the number of potential culprits straight down. Our 6th clue is psychological, driven by a massive reward nearing $1.2 million. Massive conspiracies almost never stay buried when a literal mountain of cash enters the picture. Huge payouts absolutely shatter allegiances, and veteran investigators know criminal crews quickly tear each other apart. You simply need a single partner to realize keeping quiet is a terrible deal when $2 million awaits. The 7th hint involves corporate tracking. Since the 25-liter branded bag is entirely exclusive to Walmart, detectives secured all checkout logs, possessing every barcode, swipe, and timestamp, meaning cards leave digital maps while cash guarantees security camera footage. We are way beyond blind luck, because tracking store purchases is a brutal, name-generating math equation. The 8th and ultimate signal revolves around digital overlapping. Think about phone pings from January 11th, 23rd, and February 1st. Tracking devices surfacing only during the actual kidnapping. Wireless network searches might have been swallowed by a local router, as phones constantly seek out known connections. Any piece of tech stepping into that boundary dropped a breadcrumb. While signals blinding security feeds are actively mapped, analysts are tearing apart exact timing and distance, painting a picture of aggressive momentum instead of a frozen case. The noose is pulling tighter, a pattern one expert directly linked to another extremely infamous manhunt. Look at the Idaho student murders with their sudden genetic overlaps. Match tower data, and an instant raid. That hunt escalated dramatically around week 5. And our timeline is currently pushed well past that crucial mark. This circles us right back to the start, where a seasoned veteran studying the quiet tactical shifts knows something huge approaches. A storm is brewing. Though nobody guarantees an immediate arrest, it simply comes down to understanding the playbook. So if you happen to recognize the ghost caught on tape, that stash, or that band, and you watched a friend start acting paranoid after January 31st hurricanes, millions are screaming your name. The vice grip snaps fully shut with terrifying speed, proving this tightening process isn't just a hunch. But procedural certainty, radio silence in a major investigation doesn't mean the trail went cold, it usually means things just got deadly serious. Behind closed doors at the command center, that quiet points to one thing. The data nerds are grinding. Massive information drops are getting decoded while the list of potential targets shrinks. Detectives deliberately lock down the press briefings because the puzzle pieces they hold privately are finally forming a crystal clear picture. We need to unpack electronic overlapping, since that is exactly how cops crack modern mysteries. Any mobile device broadcasting near that Catalina foothills block during the kidnapping timeframe dropped a permanent digital breadcrumb, no exceptions made. Network connection logs, provider registries, timing signals, and regional grid charts. Nobody has to willingly hand over these hidden tracking details. Communication companies automatically archive this stuff permanently. Once the feds serve those mandatory warrants, detectives grab massive files, exposing exactly whose gadgets lit up certain grid zones across those critical hours. Yet the rabbit hole goes deeper. The real magic isn't finding out who showed up on February 1st, but catching the lurkers who visited multiple times. January 11th, January 23rd, February 1st. Gadgets popping up repeatedly are massive red flags. Considering stalking operations hardly ever happen overnight, these crews practice evaluate and synchronize everything. Any person hovering near NY's residence on January 11th during that reported stalker sighting, who then returned on February 1st, becomes prime prey. Things get incredibly tense right here. Detectives aren't merely checking who showed up. They analyze the actual actions. Did the gadget sit perfectly, completely still, creep around the neighborhood, or die right before the strike? Crunching those specific routines won't drain a decade. It requires mere days. That introduces a totally different angle regarding wireless network pings. The average citizen has no clue their smartphone endlessly shouts into the void for familiar routers. Whenever a device hunts for connectivity, it blasts unique digital signatures. Assuming NY's local hub logged those queries during the attack, those pings might literally broadcast the attacker's personal wireless network title. Snagging that unique tag lets the authorities track everything: the broadband company, the financial records, and the actual brick-and-mortar address. This isn't sci-fi speculation. It represents basic cyber sleuthing. Let's stack another complication on top: the connection jammer. The gadget deployed to blind the surrounding security lenses. That tech doesn't just kill footage by sheer luck, it blasts a frequency. That wave covers a specific radius, plotting exactly when each lens died, lets the task force pinpoint the crew's precise path when lens A dies at 2:12 a.m., lens B at 2:13, and lens C at 2:14. That flow exposes their heading. It exposes the exact route and their estimated distance from NY's property at exact moments. This blueprint turns into a virtual reenactment. Blending those movements with mobile grid coordinates basically eliminates any guesswork or blind spots. Data fusion changes the entire game because once those virtual timelines and mobile logs match up, the authorities stop making assumptions completely. They secure proof. We must circle back to that knapsack. This stretches way beyond a retail chain. It really boils down to absolute traceability. Every single barcode scan gets permanently clocked. Swiping any kind of plastic means the feds instantly grab the buyer's true identity. Handing over paper bills still gives the cops a precise branch and an exact time frame. Big box retailers pack lenses covering the tills, doors, and automated lanes. Those tapes stay vaulted, and federal badges obliterate normal deletion schedules. Believing paper money offers complete safety is foolish, because lenses watch constantly. Biometric scanning isn't some futuristic fantasy for the FBI. It actively runs daily. Let's pivot to another major clue. Look at the weapon rig. Coffin Daffer heavily highlighted how awkwardly that hip mount sat. That tiny error exposes major flaws in the guy's past. Anyone drilled in tactical shooting wears their gear properly. Fumbling the mount shows he's a poser, not a pro, which tightens the net. Let's re-examine that little finger band. since it represents a piece rocked absolutely daily. Buddies spot those details. Colleagues recognize them. Relatives catch on quickly, meaning somebody close to the attacker definitely saw those federal photos and panicked hard. We just have to wonder if that witness dialed the tip line already. This is exactly why weaponizing the bounty cache is totally genius. Group hits require chatter. Chatting creates cybercrumbs, chat records, trashed notes, dial histories, and GPS ping swaps. Firing up secret chat apps doesn't erase the hidden data, the rhythmic schedules, or the overlapping gadget syncing histories. Dangling $1.2 million over an investigation fractures the trust among the crew. Crewmates bicker. Accomplices freak out. Idiots slip up. The task force relies on this chaos, watching closely for emptied bank accounts, booked flights, altered daily schedules, and completely smashed hard drives. Forget about theoretical red flags. We are looking at a live tripwire right now. Let us circle back to what Sheriff Nanos hinted at regarding the secret details. Detectives are holding close to the chest. Words like that mean everything in a probe, because cops never hide pointless trivia. They hide tactical advantages. Whenever detectives possess a piece of the puzzle that only the killer knows, they lock it down tight. Keeping facts buried gives them the ultimate weapon in the interview room to sniff out lies and verify anonymous leads. This takes us directly to Jennifer Coffindaffer and her recent analysis, which is built entirely on logic rather than feelings. She is analyzing the tactical footprint and shutting out volunteer searchers while maintaining undercover task forces, screams that the net is closing. Once you see cars getting sent back alongside a massive spike in cyber tracking, pay close attention. Jacking up the bounty and switching to highly specific press statements almost never points to a cold trail. It points to an imminent takedown. But what exactly are they closing in on? Naming the target, because the dominoes fall fast once they have a suspect. Moving from undercover watches and garbage grabs to lab tests and handcuffs, the actual process feels far less cinematic and more like a silent, methodical march right up until the bust. Every major manhunt hits a mental milestone where the perpetrator genuinely thinks they got away with murder. Months roll by without a single cop showing up, which naturally breeds a false sense of security. Life goes back to normal right before a strike team breaches their home, and tracking past behavior suggests we are hitting that exact phase. Coffindaffer pointed directly to the Koberger arrest deliberately since it played out following this exact same playbook. Months of total silence gave way to cyber targeting, genetic matches, and an abrupt nighttime raid. This current hunt has actually dragged on longer than that one did, bringing us to the most critical piece of evidence currently sitting in a laboratory. Genetic testing is the absolute wild card here, especially if advanced ancestry tracing uncovers a solid suspect. Sorting out complicated forensic profiles or finding a distant relative instantly shatters the waiting game. The upcoming news cycle will finally drop an actual name, proving this quiet operation was highly organized the entire time. Methodical police work rarely goes cold because it relies on a singular factor to blow everything wide open. Genetic evidence solves murders, completely outclassing psychological profiling or cell phone tower pings. Biology provides absolute certainty, and technicians are currently scrutinizing those exact samples. Several insiders verified that physical traces scooped from the crime scene are undergoing testing at an independent facility. Detectives typically bypass government facilities during massive investigations simply to get answers faster. Independent scientists do not deal with massive state backlogs, cutting the wait time down drastically. Think critically about the specific details the local sheriff actually admitted on the record. He revealed that the forensic team found blended genetic material, which creates a massive headache for analysts. Tangled profiles hold traces of multiple people, yet they still offer an absolute goldmine of clues. Cutting-edge technology can untangle those messy swabs, separating the threads to find distinct biological signatures. Finding those clear genetic fingerprints allows detectives to ping federal systems, and hitting a database match ends the mystery instantly. Coming up empty just pushes the team toward family tree analysis instead. You never even need the actual killer in the system. If you can track down their distant relatives through heritage websites, that exact strategy cracked the Idaho murders since the suspect had absolutely no prior criminal record to flag. Detectives started with a vague ancestral connection and mapped out his entire lineage from scratch. The squad chopped away irrelevant family members until they cornered a single guy who matched the geographic and psychological profile perfectly. Stealing his garbage gave them the final biological confirmation they needed to launch the raid. We are watching masterclass police work play out again, right here. Which brings up another fascinating angle. Several retired federal agents believe a pair of suspects might have pulled off this nightmare together. Finding tangled forensics suddenly turns into a massive breakthrough because shared biology proves a shared crime scene. Pulling two distinct genetic codes gives the task force double the footprints, double the phone records, and double the mistakes to track. Pinning down the first accomplice practically guarantees the partner will go down right alongside them. Take a moment to truly absorb the crushing tension surrounding this standoff right now. Over 6 weeks of heavy federal presence, combined with a multi-million-dollar bounty, tells a terrifying story. The heat is on coast-to-coast broadcasts, footprint tracking, receipt hunting, tower pinging, network scanning, camera plotting, and aggressive genetic testing. Dead trails do not look like this. Closing nets do. Yet, we absolutely cannot overlook a much darker twist. The rumor that cash was traded for insider access, that rumor flipped the script entirely. Since spontaneous violence leaves a vastly different footprint than a bankrolled hit, bankrolled hits demand blueprints, and blueprints demand chatter. Chatter heavily relies on loyalty, and loyalty shatters under heat. Assuming a mole leaked the guard schedules, daily habits, or blind spots, that traitor is sweating bullets. Fully aware that playing the inside man severely escalates the legal stakes, a chance hit becomes an orchestrated plot, instantly triggering drastically harsher legal penalties. With every passing day, paranoia fractures the foundation of any joint criminal enterprise. Nerves fry, lips loosen, and doubts multiply behind closed doors. An informant might already be singing. You simply cannot rule that scenario out. Detectives keep their informants buried until the cuffs click, which perfectly explains a sudden pivot from sweeping dragnet to laser focus. This brings us back to Jennifer Coffindaffer once more. Her assessment on March 10th was not a wild guess. She just recognized the signs. She saw leadership reject civilian volunteers while pulling their elite units much closer together. She heard their tone pivot toward absolute confidence. Watching the cyber tracking squad overdrive, processing these clues through the sharp eyes of a seasoned veteran, she arrived at a very straightforward verdict, remaining completely hopeful. She believes the authorities are closing the gap. It is not blind faith, it is recognizing a textbook playbook. Complex manhunts never end with a bang, they end with surgical precision. Right, while the target feels perfectly safe, life goes back to normal. Ego inflates, until black vehicles silently roll up right before the dawn. Zero media alerts. Zero warnings. Just swift action. Instantly, the agonizing quiet justifies itself entirely. Assuming this manhunt traces that exact path, the fireworks will hold off until the final strike. When the hammer falls, it will shock everyone. In reality, nothing about it is abrupt. It stems from 6 agonizing weeks of squeezing leads, charting locations, running data, and holding out for that final golden match. Nancy Guthrie remains utterly lost. That horrific truth stands firm. Her loved ones remain in limbo, suffering through an unbearable nightmare. However, the gap is steadily shrinking this very second. The space separating clues from culprits, gut feelings from hard proof, and absolute quiet from kicking down doors. If you hold a dark secret, if you spot those unique markers, or if a friend has been acting sketchy since January 31st, you need to step up immediately, because this pressure cooker blows soon. The tension snaps. When the dam breaks, it shatters completely. Retribution for these nightmares never arrives with sirens blaring. It creeps in with surgical calculation. That relentless, steady squeeze shatters the toughest defenses. Week 6 is upon us. Genetic swabs are running, while online footprints are aggressively stacked up. Detectives are hunting down credit receipts, connecting burner phones, and letting that massive bounty mount up. Nobody is wondering if the wheels are turning anymore. The only real mystery is how soon the trap shuts. If her seasoned instinct is completely right, we might just be standing on the absolute brink today. Sometimes, the most important things are happening when everything feels silent. This case teaches us a powerful lesson. Silence does not always mean failure. In fact, it can mean focus. While the world demands noise, updates, and instant answers, real progress often happens quietly through patience, discipline, and careful thinking. Justice is not built on headlines, it is built on evidence, detail, and time. It also reminds us how deeply connected we all are in the digital age. Every action leaves a trace, every movement, every signal, every decision. Whether we realize it or not, our choices create patterns. And those patterns tell a story. That is why integrity matters. Even when no one seems to be watching, but beyond investigation and technology, there is a human truth at the center. A family is waiting, a life is missing. Behind all the data and analysis is real pain, real hope, and real courage. This is the lesson: be patient, stay aware, and never underestimate the power of truth, because even in the quietest moments, the truth is still moving forward step by step until it can no longer be hidden.